Hello, and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday, the 24th of August 2026, brought to you by our partners at SEKO, your no-nonsense end-to-end logistics partner. Always delighted for their ongoing support. It's Gary here again, and kind of a bit of a weird weekend, wasn't it? Without any Rangers games. Now, based on the season thus far, maybe that wasn't the worst thing because they weren't there to ruin it, albeit we did have a great result last weekend. But just a bit strange, and I don't know, maybe in the fullness of time, if we have a good result on Thursday, it will be the best decision that we could have made. But the further down in the European competition pecking order that we went, the more I was kind of like, well, why don't we just play the game on the weekend? Then they've got more time to bond and gel and spend some time together. Maybe that time is better spent on the training field and we'll get a better product as a result this coming Thursday. We'll get to that in a wee bit here. But yeah, it's one of these things. We're in that, well, now we're officially in that last week here before the end of the transfer window. I think there's some other transfer windows that are open a wee bit longer. I recall Turkey being a wee bit different at some point in the past. Maybe it's all aligned now. I'm not 100% sure, but we're in that last week here. And do you know, I was actually talking to someone, who was it now? Maybe some pals on Friday night. I was playing football on Friday night and just saying the transfer market has been, it hasn't been the like blockbuster signing after blockbuster signing and a whole bunch of activity and such since the World Cup, and I don't know. I mean, I'm just expecting that there's going to be a lot more action between now and the end of day next Monday. But I guess we'll need to see. Rangers did bring in a player. We welcomed Kosta Nedeljevic from Aston Villa, who's good friends with our very own Dragicevic, and he played his part on Thursday night. And do you know what I loved? I loved on the Rangers TV footage that I didn't realise that both of them were really good friends and they had kind of essentially grown up together, albeit on different teams in their homeland. And it was good to see Dragicevic taking him around the training centre and just the enthusiasm and energy that they had. He spoke very, very well in his press conference as well and played well. When he came on, you start to kind of go, right, I mean, we have struggled at right back ever since James Tavernier has gone, and I know that's only essentially 5 minutes ago in football terms, but as I think I mentioned last week, I certainly have been mentioning it in conversations thus far, it seems a bit odd that Rangers didn't plan for the fact that James Tavernier, our long-standing captain, a long-standing right back, wing back, as that was planning to go, and we didn't really have a backup. We've tried Dujon Sterling in there, who's played relatively well, Ross McCrory, who's had a bit of a sticky start, and it's good to get like an actual genuine right back in there in position. So welcome aboard, young man. And it's one of these things where Rangers are very much concentrating now on the forward lines. So if that's the case, then it looks like maybe Majowski might have an opportunity to head out the door. I'm not 100% sure that's a great idea, but he seems to know what he's doing and looking to add someone else to the wings as well. And it looks like the South Korean winger, forgive me, I don't know his name, from, where is it? Was it one of the German teams? I think it's one of the German teams, one of the Spanish teams. I'm not keeping up too much with that, but it looks like a fee has been agreed, the release clause, and maybe it's Spain. Yeah, I think it's Spain. And we're in a situation now where that maybe, actually the medical was maybe purported to be happening today. So we'll see if that works out. And then we are in a situation where it feels like that's a transfer business done in terms of incomings, and maybe there might be some outgoings. Connor Barron, Nico Raskin, Leo Cameron, possibly Ross McCausland, and maybe one or two others. We'll see what that looks like. It's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next wee while. You know the one thing for me for this, I don't know if because the World Cup felt like it elongated the close season, but this transfer window's kind of dragged on a wee bit. Do you not think so? It's one of these where I'm kind of like, hurry up, just get it done so we know who we've got for this next 6 month period. I guess not even 6 months anymore. It would be 4 or 5 month period till we get to the January transfer window, and then we'll see how we fare with who we have, and hopefully no more injuries to boot. Just before I started recording, I did see that Derek McInnes has his hearing next week, a week today. But actually, probably by recording time a week today, we will know what the outcomes are. You'll remember he labelled the disgusting penalty disgusting, that was given to that mob from the East End, which essentially effectively won them the league title, and he got the 4-game ban with 1 game suspended, and we're now in a situation where he's appealed it, which gave him a chance to be in the dugout for the early part of the season. And if they uphold the ban, he would end up being suspended for, what would that be, up to and including the quarter-final of the League Cup in there, and back for the league game the following week. Or they might reduce it, or they might quash it. Sure, they'll quash it. So we'll see what happens there, and hopefully a wee bit of common sense prevails, and we get to a situation where we're in good shape with what it is we're trying to do. On to the game segment for last week, which was a good one, 2 in a row, our first clean sheet. Someone said on Rangers TV it was a first clean sheet since March or April time, something like that, which sounds like a massively long time because, this is now August pushing on to September. But, it's in game time, it's probably about a dozen games or maybe 10 games or something like that. I don't know, I didn't do my research on that. But of course we did get a 1-0 home win against Jablonec. That's the name. Come on, Gary. Jablonec. And I did say last week I had no idea where they were from. I now understand it's Czechia or the Czech Republic. And now look at me being all worldly wise and giving you all this education. And we had, do you know, here's a funny thing for me. I didn't watch the game live, so I had a pre-arranged lunch that I had booked quite some time ago, and I just didn't want to rearrange it. So I bought the Rangers TV package, and I thought, right, okay, I'll get to watch the replay a wee bit later. But I didn't ask anybody not to tell me the score. So the various group chats I'm part of, I kept roughly in touch with what they were looking like, and what the information was like, flowing in somewhat real time. And it was really reported that it was an absolute stink bomb of a game. Certainly the first half, and then the second half was a wee bit pedestrian, and it was a wee bit better, but not good enough, and could have scored chances, and etc. etc. So I went and I watched it Thursday night, full game, regular speed, actually genuinely paying attention, no distractions from my phone, which I typically have during games, and blethering with people and things like that. And I just watched the game, and honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. Now, yes, the bar is a wee bit lower now than it maybe would have been in previous European nights over the years, but I was expecting, I was expecting 90 minutes of, scratching my eyes out, thinking, come on, when is this going to end? But I wanted to really be true to watching the game and not analysing the game, because you don't show up here to these podcasts for my analysis. It's just my opinion. But we had some decent chances in the first half for Gassama and Dragicevic, and then it starts to make me think. I mean, what a change in Gassama this season thus far. I wonder what happened last season. He started like a house on fire, then completely fell away, as the team ended up doing, and then he's come back and he's been rejuvenated. Maybe it's just a year of a settling in period for him, but he's starting to be really becoming an impact player. You can see he's getting lots of shots away and really being direct and driving forward, which is great. With a Penrice chance, and then Dragicevic at the post after a brilliant advantage from the referee. Not very often I got a chance to say that. It should have been a free kick, and he let the play go. And what I thought, talking about Dujon Sterling a wee bit earlier in the right back position, I thought he had a really good game. I thought defensively he was solid, and he got himself into some really good positions and put some really good crosses in over the game. And, and that getting to the byline and cutting it back. Spoke to John Brown at the Kissimmee convention last year, and he had said in one of the Q&As one of the times, that's a nightmare for defenders, as a long-standing Rangers defender, of course, John Bomber Brown, and he said it's very, very, very difficult to defend against. It doesn't matter what level of football you're playing. So it seems like Dujon's kind of getting with the spirit of that and doing really well in that. And we then had, what was that, with Chukwani, who's playing well as well. He'd put a ball over and a shade away from the Derry's toe. Maybe he hit it a wee bit too hard. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I heard the first half in particular. Even Derek McInnes said the first half was nowhere near good enough. And I thought the team had energy. I thought they had a wee bit of invention. I thought the fans were behind them, and I thought they were quite inventive up front as well, and there was no real bomb scares at the back. And it's one of these things. Now, I'm like the glass half full guy. I understand and appreciate that. And I'm not trying to tell you that I've seen something completely different to what you've seen, but there's something to be said for watching the game when you know the score and when you've got a rough idea of the ebbs and flow of the game, because you're then in a situation where you're kind of like, I don't know, this is going to be all right. This should work out kind of decent for us. But I genuinely, when I look at the play, when I look at the effort, when I look at the endeavour, I thought it was solid. I really genuinely did. In the second half, I thought we had a shout for a penalty on the Deary, and then we had a brilliantly worked team goal, which, the finish in and of itself maybe didn't look so spectacular. But, actually the finish, he almost, Nadiri, I heard it was a tap in, which I guess effectively it was, but it was kind of high and it was almost he'd almost overran it a wee bit. So he ended up tapping it in to the top of the net. And that would have been a glaring miss. And speaking of glaring misses, we'll get to that in just a second. And then with another penalty shout out when Yakota was fouled, kind of maybe. They didn't really spend a lot of time looking at that in terms of the replays and such. And then we had a glorious chance to it felt like effectively put the tie away from Jablonec and Gassama from an Adiri cross. It was a shade behind him and he just put it over the bar, and as soon as he hit it you could tell that he knew that he had absolutely fluffed it. I think he had overran it just a wee bit, because when you look at his movement before it, he knew exactly what he wanted to do, where he wanted to be. Nadiri put it over and he just a shade behind him and scooped it over the bar. I thought it was really comfortable. And then Cammy Devlin came on, and then it was that. It was honestly the weirdest red card that I think I've seen. When you see the actual foul itself, it's, he studs up. He's not in control and he's off the ground. So I don't have any issue with the red card. But in the beginning, it was kind of weird. And their defender went down, and you could tell he was hurt. It was obviously quite painful. But then he kind of just got up and moved on. The referee waved play on. The linesman never caught anything. And then VAR says, well, let's take a peek at it, thinking possibly it might have been a penalty. That's what we thought at the time. And then, no, it comes back and you get Devlin with a red card. Now, here's the thing. From a playing perspective, regardless of how intense you are or how much intensity you're involved in within the game, you know if you've hit someone. You know if you stood in someone's toe. You know if you maybe flashed an elbow or an arm out and you caught someone. You just know. You know that. So when Cammy Devlin was doing the whole, what's this? I'm kind of thinking, come on, man. I don't know. But it was confusing in the moment. My understanding is there wasn't a whole bunch of communication in the stadium, so the fans are kind of like, okay, this might be a penalty, which you mean he's getting red carded. But yeah, it was one of these things, and it's quite unfortunate. Obviously, he wasn't brought on to get a red card and make it inconvenient for us. But I didn't feel like there was too much danger after that. There was one chance right at the very, very end where the boy skied it over the bar when he had a good chance to put it on, at least put it on target. But other than that, I just didn't have that. We could end up blowing this here feeling, which is great not to have, if you know what I mean. So in terms of the positives, the win, of course, a clean sheet. We're now in the driving seat. We've got 2 goals in 2 games for Ryan Nadiri as well, and some really good performances. You can start to see some of these new players playing well and bedding in a wee bit. In terms of negatives, I think really, obviously the red card is going to be material for us, but not scoring more goals. I think we had enough chances to maybe just put this tie a wee bit more beyond them, but we didn't get a chance to do that, so we need to fully concentrate on Thursday and see where we go from there. In terms of possession, the Rangers website said 57% possession, 10 shots on goal with 3 on target versus 5 shots on goal with 4 on target for them. I don't quite remember that. Maybe they were just kind of wee powder puff shots that our goalie just managed to have in hand easily enough. In terms of the referee watch, honestly, I thought it was quite tough to see anything that he got wrong. He did his best to keep the game flowing. He let things go, especially earlier in the game. He had no choice, really, with the red card. He actually looked at it a wee bit longer than I would have. I would have looked at a couple of the replays and then went, right, okay, that's fine. But he did well. And that, as I mentioned earlier, playing that advantage for Penrice, to get for Penrice's chance and then Dragojevic's chances was, that's the standard of refereeing that we're really looking for, wasn't it? So he did his job, and so he gets a 7 out of 10 for doing that, and that's all you get. You need to do something exceptional to get an 8 or a 9 or even a 10. So in terms of our next games, of course, we have the return leg against Jablonec this Thursday, and that's an earlier kickoff time. It's a 5 p.m. UK kickoff time, so that's noon Eastern Standard Time. So don't forget the early kickoff time. And do you know the thing is, I was actually looking at the list of teams that are left in the conference, because I'm still in a wee bit of a downer that we're not in the Europa League. And by the way, did you see that Bialystok won their first game 4-0 in the playoff round for the Conference League? So they're pretty much through into the Conference League. Maybe that will not turn out to be the disastrous result that we thought after, if they do well in Europe. Still a disaster for us, of course. But yeah, looking at the other teams that are there, you've got Atalanta, you've got Ajax, you've got Brighton, you've got a bunch of teams there. And also you might still have a chance of seeing Hearts and Hibs in there. They both of them drew their first games. Motherwell had a bit of a rough night. I think they got beat 3-1 at Fir Park, was it? Something like that. So the draw is going to be made this Friday. So hopefully we're going to be in the draw, and then we'll see what that looks like, because play begins on the 15th of October. So it's that 6 weeks after, just for everything to get organised, and then we will see where we are. And we've obviously got the folks to drop down from from the Europa League playoffs as well. So I think we're still going to get some good big nights in there. And then Colin from Orlando Rangers Supporters Club had put something very similar on the NARSA WhatsApp chat to say, we're not done with big European nights here. And I'm like, man, oh man, you kind of read my mind there. You must have been sneak peeking at my notes for Monday's podcast. And then after Thursday's game, obviously for Thursday, we want to get through. We want European football this year. And then we go away to Pittodrie on Sunday, and that's a 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff. Former manager versus his former team. And Pittodrie's never an easy place to go. Aberdeen haven't had a brilliant start to the season. What is it? It's 9th versus 8th in the table. Aberdeen have not had a good chance. They're above us in the table. So I know had a good start, I should say. They're above us in the table. So I guess we'll see what happens there. 5 a.m. my time, going to be a bit of a rough one. So in terms of shout outs, I did want to start with something a wee bit more somber. I did see on social media, actually, I think it was over a week ago, that John Kennedy from the Las Vegas Loyal had passed away, and I didn't have any more details. I didn't have time to collect any more details last week, so I reached out to the Las Vegas Loyal just to find out, what happened, how is everything going okay, is there anything we can do to support? And I got a wonderful note from big Jimmy Denning there, so I'm going to read it out if you forgive me for doing that. The Las Vegas Loyal family is deeply saddened by the passing of our longtime friend John Kennedy, a true legend of football in Las Vegas and throughout the United States. Born May 18th, 1950 in Drumchapel, John devoted more than 4 decades to the game he loved, officiating at every level from youth and high school soccer to college and the professional ranks. His remarkable career included working with more than 15,000 referee crews and nearly 50,000 assignments, 17 Nevada high school state championship games, the historic 8 overtime 1985 NCAA championship match, and the 1986 NCAA championship final. In 2009, John received one of the sport's highest honours when he was inducted into the US National Soccer Hall of Fame. A proud Scotsman, John's love of football extended well beyond the field, and he remained an avid and devoted supporter of Glasgow Rangers throughout his life. He will be missed by all of us at the club. Rest easy, wee John. Such a shame. I remember liaising with John a number of years back. Actually, I had tickets to see Phil Collins in Las Vegas, and I couldn't make it. I bought the tickets before I booked the trip and such, and then when the trip came up, I couldn't afford to go, quite frankly, and I was looking for someone to take the tickets, just to take the tickets, and I got in touch with John, and he gratefully took them and went to the concert and loved it. So that's my wee piece of John's legacy. But I mean, what a career there to look on, and it's a very, very sad time for everyone there. So as always, condolences to John's family and friends and everyone at the Las Vegas Loyal, from everyone at NARSA and everyone here at the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary. Very sad news indeed. Just a reminder that the ERSA convention is coming up next month, and that, what's that now? That must be like 4 weeks away, I guess. That's September 24th to 27th. If you go and look at the ERSA website, you'll get all the details that you need if you happen to be in and around the Lanzarote area in the wonderful Canary Islands. And this is the very, very last time I confirm that I will talk about the Rangers Ladies Lunch. No one messaged me to say that they'd attended and how the day was. I looked at the Rangers website and there was no information there. Usually they've got photographs and such like that, but maybe they just haven't had time to get those up yet. Maybe everyone was having a weekend off since there were no games there. In terms of the convention update, we did have a meeting last week, a NARSA executive meeting. I actually totally forgot about it. I don't even think I messaged it or mentioned it, sorry, at the or during the podcast last week. And we had a meeting, what day was that now? Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. And we did talk about the convention. Looks like we've narrowed it from about 4 or 5 different destinations down to 2, possibly 3, but I think it's more so 2. So we're going to basically spend the next 2 to 3 weeks solidifying what is the best option for us, and then make a decision, probably at the executive meeting in September. And then we will be in a position to get either Brian or Alan or both onto the podcast to make that big formal announcement. So we are getting there, and the amount of work that Brian is putting in the background, dealing with different tourism boards, dealing with different hotels, and really looking at the wider communities in and around some of these locations is absolutely incredible. I've done it myself for years and years, and it's not an insignificant amount of work, and he's doing that while running a business, while relocating to Arizona, while keeping his family's plates spinning, so to speak. So thank you very much to Brian for everything that he is doing, and of course for Alan for ably assisting him in that. One wee thing I did want to talk about for this week was one of the benefits of membership of NARSA, full membership of NARSA, is that you get the opportunity to apply for tickets for Ibrox, or actually for Rangers games back home. Sometimes we get tickets for away games. They become a wee bit more scarce when the team are doing well, especially towards the end of the season. And the process is that you email Gary Fleming, the NARSA Vice President, and you get an opportunity to say, this is who's going. You need to be a member of a bona fide NARSA club, of course, and you ask for how many tickets you're asking for a particular game. And last season we had 11 games requested for a total of 15 tickets, and 8 were successful for a total of 11 tickets. The 3 unsuccessful ones were all that mob from the East End, which is quite normal. And there was one away game, which, as I mentioned, is difficult to get that information, or difficult to get access to the tickets. And then for this season, although the season is somewhat young, we haven't had an answer yet to many of the games, because many of the games are in the future. They're coming up maybe September, October time or so. But so far we've had 9 game requests for a total of 22 tickets. Thus far, we've had 3 successful games for a total of 10 tickets, and we're still waiting on the other 6 there from the ticket office. And the ticket office have to kind of wait and see everything all cascading before they know where we sit and fit in that. So again, if you're applying for an Old Firm game, I wouldn't say don't apply, because you just never know what's going to happen, but it's going to be very, very difficult to get tickets for those games for you. But if you're planning a trip back home, anytime I plan a trip anywhere, I'm looking at the Rangers fixtures to say, right, okay, that's that game. Okay, I can watch that from the hotel room. Or there's a club there, I could go visit the club, or whatever that looks like. So if you're heading back home and you're doing so during the season, take a look at the fixtures. And if you're a member of a paid up NARSA club, then you are more than welcome to come along. And so come along, apply for a ticket, and hopefully you get a chance to come along from there. So on to communications for this week. And from a communication perspective, no Gers Guide again, as I recorded. I'm recording a wee bit earlier this morning. It's just 8:56 a.m. And there's no Gers Guide there, and nothing was published last week either. You remember maybe the week before that it was published on a Tuesday for some reason. So it's a bit sparse on the communication front. Maybe they're doing something a wee bit different. Maybe the page never got quite as many hits as they were hoping, or they never got quite as many sales from clicks through in the page. Who knows what that looks like. But in terms of the women's team, I can tell you that they won 7-0 yesterday against Spartans, newly promoted Spartans, and the game started with an OG by Spartans and included 4 goals from Katie Wilkinson. Do you know what? Katie Wilkinson is scoring an absolute barrel load of goals. You remember she got the hat-trick against that mob from the East End in one of the games towards the end of last season as well. I'll be very surprised if some bigger teams aren't really keeping a proper eye on Katie, because she is just a goal machine these days, and good for her for doing that. Keep going, Katie, and hopefully you're going to drive us to a title. This week, the team are away to the champions, actually defending champions Hearts, and that is a 4:10 p.m. kickoff on Sunday, this coming Sunday. And after 2 rounds of the women's season, all of the big 4, which would be us, Glasgow City, actually Big 5 maybe even, that mob, Hearts and Hibs have all won. maybe not everyone's won, because I thought I could only see 4 on the league table now that I say that out loud and real time. But yeah, we're in a situation here where it's a strong start to the season, and that's really all you can ask for, and just keep banging in the goals. I did look at the fan advisory board minutes from the end of last month just to see if there was anything material. I think I need to get on that quicker so that I can give you information that you might not have actually read yet, but doing this essentially about a month later is kind of next to useless, because all the information would have been filtered out by then. But there's a lot of decent information in there. Jim Gillespie had provided an update on his focus since he'd taken over as the CEO, and it said on the minutes that he reiterated that every role within Rangers must contribute directly or indirectly to first team success, winning domestic competitions and competing strongly in Europe. You may want to do that a wee bit better, Jim, based on the start that we have had, but not a lot of revelatory information is the word that I was trying to say. There was updates on the Charity Foundation from Conal Cochrane, where things sit in the relationship with Castor and Umbro, a wee bit of dialogue on the independent review on the stramash that happened back in March in the Scottish Cup game at Ibrox, and then a wee bit of a deeper dive into the various working groups that the fan advisory board have in place. So it looks like an in-depth conversation, and I'll get a wee bit more on that as we are moving forward. Just a final reminder, as always, to follow us on Instagram and TikTok if you have not done so already. That's NARSA Comms, NARSA And that will do it for this week, my friends, which is kind of handy because I've got a meeting coming up right now for my work. So I will bid you a farewell. Thank you very, very much, as always, for taking the time to tune in. Please do share it with someone that you think might enjoy it. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors at SEKO. Big week for us, folks. A couple of clean sheets and a couple of victories to make it 4 in a row would be very, very, very welcome, especially on Sunday at Pittodrie. We need to start picking up the points in the league campaign because, as you know, the last 2 wins that we had were in the Cup and European competitions, so we need to start to claw back some points in the league here, and no better place to do it than up at the Sheep Dome at Pittodrie. Until next week, please do take care of yourself and all the very best, okay? Follow.